She thought it was just another lost wallet, until she opened it and saw a photo that stopped her breath. A face she hadn't seen since the day he was taken from her arms. The luxury hotel buzzed quietly with the rhythm of a typical evening. Soft jazz in the lobby, guests checking in, and housekeepers finishing their last round of cleaning. Elena Martinez, 47, moved quickly and quietly through the halls, her maid cart stacked neatly. She'd worked here for 8 years, always polite, always invisible. Tonight, she entered room 214, freshly vacated, and began stripping the bed. That's when she saw it. A brown leather wallet, wedged between the headboard and the mattress. She picked it up carefully, glancing around the room. The guest had already checked out, probably halfway to the airport by now. As she opened it to find ID, her eyes landed on a photo tucked behind a worn insurance card. And everything in her body stopped. It was a young man, smiling, maybe in his early 20s, standing on a pier, sunlight on his face. But it wasn't the smile that shattered her. It was the eyes. Those were his eyes. The baby she lost 22 years ago. Her son. Taken from her when she was just a teenager, abandoned by her family, forced to give him up in a hospital room where she was too numb to scream. She stared at the name on the driver's license. Daniel Cruz. Age 22. Her knees gave out, and she sank onto the edge of the bed, clutching the wallet like it was a lifeline. It can't be. But deep inside, something told her. It was. And the boy she had cried for every birthday since had just slept in this very room. Elena sat in the staff break room long after her shift ended, the wallet resting in her lap like a fragile piece of fate. Her fingers trembled as she pulled the photo out again, this time noticing a note scribbled on the back in neat handwriting. Mom always said this was my lucky smile. D. Mom. The word felt like both a knife and a prayer. Unable to hold the weight of silence, Elena approached the front desk manager the next morning. The guest from room 214, Daniel Cruz. Do we have any way to reach him? He left something behind. The manager nodded. Yes, he's still in town. He extended his stay by a night, checking out this evening. I can give him a call if it's urgent. Elena's chest tightened. He was still here. But how could she face him? What could she even say? Hi, I think you're the child I was forced to give up when I was 17. It sounded insane, even in her head. And yet the ache in her chest told her she couldn't ignore this. Not again. That evening, she waited near the front lobby with the wallet in her purse. She spotted him as soon as he stepped out of the elevator. Tall, calm, dressed in a navy coat, scrolling through his phone. Elena stood slowly, heart hammering. Excuse me, Mr. Cruz? He looked up, polite but distant. Yes? She held out the wallet with shaking hands. I believe you left this in your room. He took it with a grateful smile. Oh wow, thank you. I didn't even realize this would have been a nightmare to replace. You're welcome, she whispered. He paused. You work here? She nodded. I saw the photo inside, of you as a child. He blinked, surprised. That? Yeah. My mom gave it to me before she passed. I don't really remember her. I was adopted as a baby. Her world tilted. I'm sorry to hear that, she murmured. It's okay. I was raised well. I always wondered about her, though. I never knew her name, just... A nurse once said she cried so hard they had to sedate her. Elena's eyes filled with tears. That sounds like something a mother would do. Daniel smiled softly. Yeah, I guess she loved me. And before she could stop herself, Elena said, more than anything. Daniel looked at her again. Something flickered in his gaze. Do we know each other? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Not yet. But she knew now. She wasn't letting him walk away again. Elena sat on a bench outside the hotel, watching Daniel walk down the steps with his suitcase. Every step he took felt like a second chance, slipping away. Her hand clutched the folded paper she hadn't meant to write. It wasn't polished, just raw words. Her truth, scribbled on a napkin during her lunch break. I am your mother. She couldn't say it to his face, not yet. But maybe he'd read it. Maybe he'd come back. She was still sitting there when she heard footsteps approaching. She looked up. It was Daniel. He held the note in one hand, confusion and emotion fighting across his face. You left this with the concierge, he said. She nodded, her throat tight. I didn't know how else to tell you. He sat beside her slowly, as if sitting beside a memory he hadn't known existed. This has to be a mistake. My birth mother, she died during labor. That's what I was told. Elena shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. Number, that was a lie they told your adoptive parents. I was 17. My family didn't believe in raising a child alone. They told the hospital to keep everything private. I never even signed your birth certificate. Daniel stared at her, eyes wide. I thought about you every birthday, she continued. I prayed you were loved, safe, that one day, maybe, I'd see you again. But I never imagined it like this. Silence stretched between them. Then Daniel whispered, Do you have any proof? She reached into her purse, pulled out a tiny, faded photo. A 17-year-old Elena cradling a newborn boy, eyes red from crying, but her arms full of love. Daniel looked at it. His hands shook. I have this same birthmark, right here. He pointed to a small, crescent-shaped mark on his collarbone. Elena nodded, voice breaking. You were born with it. I used to trace it with my finger while you slept in the hospital crib. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and suddenly, she wasn't just the maid who returned his wallet. She was the missing part of his story. Why didn't you try to find me? I wanted to, she whispered, but I didn't know where you went. I had nothing. I only had guilt and hope. Daniel sat back, breath shaky. I have so many questions. And I have 22 years' worth of answers. He didn't say anything more, but he didn't get up either. He stayed. Because sometimes the truth doesn't explode. Sometimes it sits quietly on a bench and waits to be held. Daniel didn't speak for a long time. Elena didn't rush him. They sat together beneath the swaying branches of the courtyard tree outside the hotel. Two strangers connected by blood, separated by lies, and now stitched together by a truth too powerful to ignore. Finally, he looked at her. I always wondered what she looked like. My mom. He smiled faintly. Turns out she worked at the hotel I stayed in. Elena laughed softly through her tears. I've been close all these years without knowing it. Maybe the universe finally ran out of patience. Daniel turned serious again. You said you thought about me every birthday? Every single one, she whispered. I made a little cake. I didn't know your favorite flavor, so I used mine. Chocolate with strawberries. He blinked hard, stunned. That's my favorite. Their eyes met. And in that moment, 22 years of pain, wondering and longing collapsed between them. Can I hug you? He asked gently. She nodded, already crying. Daniel stood and opened his arms. Elena rose, and for the first time in more than 2 decades, she stepped into the embrace she'd dreamed of. His arms around her, hers around him, holding each other like time owed them this one moment. Weeks later, Daniel came back. Not as a guest, but with a suitcase and moving boxes. He had decided to stay in town for a while. To get to know someone important, he told his colleagues. He and Elena met for coffee every Sunday. They walked through parks. She told him stories from her childhood. He showed her photos from his. And slowly, piece by piece, they began rebuilding a life. Together. One evening, as they sat flipping through old photo albums Daniel had never seen before, he turned to her and said, "You know, that day I lost my wallet. I thought it was just bad luck." He smiled. "Now I know it was the best thing that ever happened to me." Elena reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "You didn't lose anything," she said. "You found your way back home." "Because sometimes what looks like an accident is really fate, finally correcting the distance between two hearts that were never meant to stay apart."